If you have the internet, you probably saw the release of the new DJI FPV drone, and they must have sponsored hundreds of videos. And it worked on me. I bought right into it, and I got one of my own. And unfortunately, I was not sponsored, so this thing cost me $1,300, and I didn't get one of those silly motion controller things. This drone's obviously going to be super different from my regular drone, which is this one. This is the DJI Mavic Pro, or Mavic 2 Pro. Now don't get me wrong, I love this thing, and it's great. I love the video that it produces, but I'm excited to try this, because it's going to be a lot faster, a lot more agile, and maybe a lot cooler. We'll have to see. Let's go fly it. Actually, I've never flown an FPV drone before, so maybe I need to practice on the simulator a little bit. This is where we need Eye of the Tiger playing. Except not really, because I don't want a copyright strike. I'm gonna have to sit down for this. I have a feeling that if I stand up and use these goggles, I'm gonna fall over. Just based on the practice last night, I ended up feeling quite sick after probably about 30 minutes of practicing. So I just spent all day flying this, and it is so much fun. And it's surprisingly easy. It's easier than I thought it was going to be, especially in sport mode. And it's because sport mode works kind of like a hybrid between this and the Mavic or the Phantom. When you're flying it with the Mavic and the Phantom, when you push forward, the drone flies forward, and then when you send to the stick, the drone stops. And this does the same thing in sports mode. You can do the same thing with the thrust as well. So when you raise the thrust, it'll go up, and then when you recenter the thrust, the drone just hovers. On mine, there's a screw on the back so you can adjust this. So right now my thrust is manual, whether I'm in sport or normal mode. And I find that a little bit easier when you're trying to do some of the faster shots and when you're flying around the vehicles. But you can obviously set this up however you want. And maybe when you're starting out, I recommend, I think just to get used to it, I just leave it on or change it to this mode, to the manual mode, but it's whatever you want to do. And before I bought this, I did watch a lot of reviews, and I saw a lot of people say that this could be used instead of the Mavic or the Phantom, and I rolled my eyes when they said that. And now I can kind of see where they're coming from. It does fly pretty straight and level when you're not throwing it around a whole bunch, and when you're in sport mode or normal mode, it's obviously not going to be as smooth or as level as the regular drones, and the camera quality just is nowhere near that of my Mavic Pro. but it's usable, it's good enough. But of course, unlike the regular drones, you have the option with this one to get down really low and fast, and it's really maneuverable, and it's a lot of fun as well. And if you just wanted to get one drone and be done with it, and you're okay with giving up some of the steadiness of the regular drones with the 3-axis gimbals, this thing's great. It's not until you switch over to manual mode on this controller that it gets really fun though. And in manual mode, the controller suddenly gets a whole lot more sensitive, really twitchy with small movements, and the controls work more like an FPV drone. So if you push forward on this, the drone tilts forward, and the more you push forward, the more the drone will tilt. And when you recenter it, the drone doesn't level up, it doesn't stop. It'll stay tilted forward, whatever angle it was, so it'll keep accelerating or it'll keep moving forward. You actually have to pull back on this to tilt the drone back again to stop it. And I'll probably use a combination of the two for now. Certainly when I was flying around the vehicles, I found sports mode to be easiest. It just gave me a little bit less to worry about, but manual mode was best for pretty much everything else, including the really low down shots and the flying around things, flying through things. Who knows though, as I get better, I may end up switching over to manual mode more often or using it all the time. And something I really love about this over other FPV drones is it kind of introduces you slowly to everything. So you can start off with normal mode, shift over to sport mode, and then go into manual mode. But even in manual mode, I have some limitations. So with this, I have beginner mode on, which kind of limits the attitude, which is how much is pointing forward or right or left. And with the controller, without beginner mode, if I pushed forward and held forward, this thing would just start doing flips constantly, but it limits you to a certain angle. I don't know exactly what that is, but it means that I'm not gonna, it's not gonna go crazy basically, at least not until I'm ready to turn off beginner mode, and then maybe I can start doing some flips and some loops. Even as you remove the limitations, it does have some backups. So in sport mode, it disables the sensors, but you can still have the option for it to slow down when it detects obstacles. And even in manual mode, when you turn off beginner, in fact in all of the modes, it does have an emergency stop, which is really nice. So just if things are going wrong, you're upside down in the middle of a loop and you can't figure out which way's up, you just push this button and it'll automatically level itself and hover, which is really nice. It'll do the same thing if you end up accidentally losing signal, and it can even return to home, which normal FPV drones just don't do. With those, if you lose signal, you crash, they're gone, you have to go find them. And it's features like that that made me choose this, made me go for this. I've wanted an FPV drone for years, but I've just been too intimidated. This thing has all those features that take away the scary part of the FPV drones. And it's not just the flying either. FPV drones take a lot of work and maintenance, especially with things like the batteries, where you get these tiny batteries. They last about 4 or 5 minutes each. You have to plug them in certain ways, balance them, and if you do something wrong, they'll swell, they explode, and I just don't want that going on in my vehicle. The batteries on this are great, although admittedly very expensive, but you just get the one battery, which I pull it out here. All I have to do is I plug it in, I don't have to worry about it. It sorts itself out, it'll even discharge itself if it's not used. And it lasts a decent amount of time, 20 minutes, which is really good for an FPV drone. The goggles are also super clear, and I wish I could show you, but unfortunately I put the wrong memory card in and it was a little too slow, so it didn't record properly. But it's kind of like sitting in a movie theater, kind of like in the middle of the movie theater with a huge screen in front of you, and you can see every little detail, the limbs, branches from trees, wires, everything. So it's awesome flying with this. So was it worth it? We'll have to see. We'll have to see how much it ends up being in my videos. I don't see me doing loops around the vehicle while we're driving along because it just doesn't fit in with my video style on YouTube. I can see this being really cool for following the vehicle as I drive along, just following it fast and low, maybe zigzagging from side to side. If I'm in a canyon, I could start up high and dive down into the canyon, follow it. It'd be really cool for mountaintops as well, going through forests, through the trees. It'd also be cool for flying around campsites when I'm set up for the night, just to show the area. Now that being said, I'm not going to sell the Mavic, so it means I'm going to be taking 2 drones with me now. The next question is, should you get it? And I think that really depends on what you want from the drone. If you're going to be making videos for YouTube or anything else, then think about what kind of shots you want. If you want something that's going to be cinematic and you just want to get the landscapes in, then this one's probably not for you. You probably want something like my Mavic 2 Pro or any of the other Mavic or Phantom line drones. They're fantastic for the cinematic stuff. If, on the other hand, you're producing videos that are going to be really fast-paced, you got a lot of action, you want to be down low, you want to be fast, then this thing's awesome. I also think this is going to be for people who are not necessarily out to produce videos for YouTube. I see a lot of people online commenting saying they just want a drone to fly around for various reasons, for fun, for scouting out the trail. And I think actually this one, if you can afford to get this one, it is going to be really good for that purpose, because you can do both of those. You can fly it up and you can scout ahead in sport or normal mode, Or if you get to the campsite and you want to fly around and have some fun, you can do that too. Because this thing is so much fun to fly. Did I mention that yet? If you have any questions about the drone or my experience with it, drop a comment. And if you are thinking about buying one of these, I put links in the description to where you can get it from several different websites. Just don't bother with the motion controller. Thanks for watching. It's funny because even in manual mode, this was a lot easier to pick up and learn than I thought it was going to be. I've been thinking about it, and I think one of the reasons is because this controller is a lot like the Xbox controller. I had an Xbox 360, and I played a lot of Battlefield 3, and I was flying the helicopters on there. I think that's kind of what helped me learn a lot.